Okay, grade 8s, we're finally going to start adding and subtracting fractions today. Okay, section 2.7. So we'll do both, adding and subtracting, and then we'll go a little slower when we do the mixed ones. We'll do 1 day of adding mixed and 1 day of subtracting mixed. So let's start with adding fractions. What do you need to know? Well, the most important thing is you must find a common denominator, right? That was not true for multiplying and dividing. But with adding fractions, you have to have the same number in the denominator position. You cannot ninja slice. Can't do that canceling that we did before with multiplying and dividing. You can't do it when you add fractions. And as you probably know, you're going to add the numerators together. You're going to keep the denominator the same. Okay, I imagine this is review for most of you, but not to say it's easy. A lot of people struggle with this. So you knew it was coming. Here's the pictures, which I love so much. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 1/8 and 5/8. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to start by drawing 1/8 and 5/8. Okay, I've broken this whole into 8s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to shade 1 in order to represent 1/8, right? So there's 1/8. And now in the other one, I'm going to represent 5/8. Okay, again, there's 8s, and we want to shade in 5 to make it 5/8. So there's 4 and 1 more. Sorry, I'm going outside the lines a little bit. I have 5/8. So we've got our 1/8, we've got our 5/8, and we want to know what we have total. Well, if you look at all the shaded ones, all the yellow ones, how many of them are there? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 of them. And what size are each one of them? They're all the same size. They're all 8s. Do you see why that bottom number needs to stay the same? It was 8 to start with, and it stayed 8 because the shapes don't change sizes. They're still 1/8 of the whole. These are all 1/8 of the whole. And then for the top, the 1 and the 5, we just add them together. You have 1 there, you have 5 here, you add them together, and you have 6 total. So there's our answer, 6/8. Of course, I wouldn't actually be happy with that answer, would I? How come? Because you can put it in lowest terms. You could divide this by 2, you could divide this by 2, you end up with 3/4. That's the best answer. Alright, let's try another one. 3/4 plus 1/2. I think I can draw this one pretty quick. So for our quarters, I'll split this into quarters. So boom, boom, and we have to shade in 3 of those. 1, 2, 3. And in the other hole here, I'm going to make half. So we want to shade these two amounts together. And right now it looks really hard to do that because you have quarters over here and you have halves here. It's hard, isn't it? So what you would do? You could turn this into quarters. This is the idea of getting common denominators. If you put another line across here, you now have quarters instead of halves. It'd be easy to do this, wouldn't it? It would just be like what we did before. Count up the shaded ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how many there are is 5. That's the top number. And the bottom number is a size. What size are all those pieces? They're all quarters. So 5/4 is our answer. Of course, you could write that as 1 and 1/4. 4 goes into 5 one time. You got 1 left over. Keep the denominator the same. All right? So you don't want to be drawing pictures, of course. I mean, it's fun, but it takes a lot of time. So what you'd want to do is you want to get a common denominator. 4 and 2. The smallest thing they both go into is 4. So you would change them both to fractions with 4 on the bottom. With the first one, you already have 4 on the bottom, so just keep the 3 the same. The second one, if you're going to make that 4 on the bottom, you have to multiply this by 2. You do the same to the top, and you get 2 here. Now you're good to go. 4 stays the same on the bottom, 3 plus 2 is 5, and you're done. Alright, I'll go a little slower on the next one, but we won't use pictures. Well, actually, the next one I won't go slow, because look, you already have common denominators. When you have common denominators, you love it. You just keep the denominator the same, and you add the numerators. 5 plus 8 is 13. You're finished. That's it. Or make it 1, and what's the remainder? How many 9s go into 13? You have 4 left over. Denominator stays the same. But this one, for example, is no good, because you have different denominators. So you got to figure out what the common denominator is. Now, some people have big problems with this. So one thing you do is just count by the big number. If I count by the big number, I get 12, 24, 36, 48. Okay, once you've written a few down, ask yourself, does 8 go into the first one? Does 8 go into 12 evenly? No. Does 8 go into 24 evenly? Yeah, it does. So that's it. That's the lowest common denominator is 24. Now, maybe you didn't find that one and you skipped ahead and you got to 48 and you found that they both go into 48. That's fine too, but always try to get the lowest one. So in this case, 24 is our lowest common denominator. So what I want to do is I want to write two new fractions, both with 24 on the bottom. So you ask yourself, what do you multiply 8 by to get 24? You multiply it by 3. You got to do the same at the top. What do you multiply 12 by to get 24? 2. So you got to multiply by 2, and you got to do the same at the top. Okay, what are your new numerators? 5 times 3 is 15, and 7 times 2 is 14. Now you're almost done. Since they have the same denominator, keep it the same, and add the numerators. 15 plus 14 is 29. That's great. That answer is fine. Or make it mixed. 24 goes into 29 one time with 5 left over. Denominator stays the same. Okay, one more on this page. 9 and 3. Okay, if you don't know what the lowest common denominator is, remember, start with the big one, 9, and count by 9s. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45. Now, does 3 go into the first one? Yeah, it does. 3 does go into the first one. So that's it. Sometimes the lowest common denominator is one of the denominators. So you want that both denominators to be 9. So you should have two fractions, something over 9 plus something over 9. Well, look, the first fraction's already over 9, so don't change anything. Or if you want, you could think of this as multiply by 1 and multiply by 1. But anyway, nothing changes. But in the second one, you have to multiply by 3 to get 9 on the bottom. And what you do the bottom, you do the top. 2 times 3 is 6 is our new numerator. Okay, we're ready. Denominator stays the same, so it's 9. And 2 plus 6 is 8. And that's it. It's in lowest terms, so you're good to go. Alright, so now we're going to move on to subtracting fractions, which is very similar. Did I write the same rules? I think so. You must find a common denominator, right? Adding, subtracting, you have to find a common denominator. You cannot ninja slice, just like adding. You're going to subtract the numerators. This is the only difference. With adding, you obviously add the numerators. With subtracting, you subtract the numerators. And the denominators stay the same. Okay, here's the pictures. So give me a second to draw these fractions for you. Okay, I decided to do this a little bit differently. I took away these other holes. So I just have one hole here. And the first fraction is 3/8. So I've broken the hole into 8s. There's 8 sections here, right? And I'm going to shade in 3. So this is 3/8 right there. And now what I want to do is I want to take away, or I want to remove one of the 8s. So I'm just going to remove it by erasing. I'm going to erase one of the sections, one of the 8s. So if I get rid of that one, what's left shaded should be my answer. So what's left shaded? Well, there's still 8s. They didn't change size. They still are 8s. The pieces that are shaded are still 8s. And how many are there? 1, 2. So the answer is 2 8s. How would we do that? Well, look, we kept the denominator the same, and we just subtracted. 3 minus 1 is 2. Are we happy with this answer? Well, it's good, but we'd like it in lowest terms. Divide them both by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Remember, another way you could think of this is one piece here, which is a quarter. This is a piece here, which is a quarter. This is a piece here, which is a quarter. And this is a piece here, is a quarter. So you can see one of the 4 pieces is shaded in yellow. That's how come it goes down into 1/4. All right, let me draw 6 for this one. Okay, there you go. I've done my best to break it into 6, and the fraction we're interested in is 5/6. So I'm going to shade in 5 of them. There's 5/6. And now I have to get rid of half. Ooh, again, that's kind of hard to just remove half, isn't it? But I mean, you could use the picture to do it. You could think this amount right here is half of the whole. So if I was to remove all 3 of those, so let's do it. Let's remove all 3 of those guys. And if I remove those, the ones that are shaded are these 2 down here, which means my answer must be 2 pieces, and the size of those pieces are still 6. So we get 2 6s as our answer, or 1/3, right? We can divide them both by 2. Now this would have been even easier if we'd had common denominators. What if we'd gotten a common denominator of 6? We would have had 5 over 6 minus, let's make this to a 6 by multiplying by 3. And do the same to the top and make it 3. And it would have been even easier, right? You would have had 5 of them shaded in, like this, and then I would have removed 3 of them. So I'd remove 1, I'd remove 2, I'd remove 3. Oh, I'm left with 2, 6. So again, you can see how common denominators really makes adding and subtracting a lot easier. When you have pictures, it makes it easier. When you have no pictures, it's almost essential to do. Otherwise, it's really, really hard. All right, let's whip through some last questions here. So the first question, we have common denominators. We love it. We keep the denominator the same. We subtract this time the numerators. 7 minus 3 is 4. And make sure it's in lowest terms. You could divide both of these by 2, so you end up with 2 over 5 is your answer. This one, these are not common denominators, 3 and 2. We got to get common denominators. So count by the big one. 3, 6, 9, 12. Hopefully that's enough. Does 2 go into 3? No. Does 2 go into 6? It does. So that's the lowest common denominator. You want to have two fractions that have 6 on the bottom. What do you multiply the 3 by to get 6? 2. Do the same to this. What do you multiply 2 by to get 6? 3. Do the same to this. So we have 2 times 2 over here, which is 4. And we have 1 times 3, which is 3. And now we can get our answer. Keep the denominator the same. And 4 minus 3 is 1. That's already in lowest terms, so we're good. Alright, common denominator of 4 and 6. Well, take the bigger one, 6, and write a few of those down. 6, 12, 18, 24. You could also look on a times table grid, right? Does 4 go into 6? No. Does 4 go into 12? It does. That's the lowest common denominator. So 12 and 12. What do you multiply 4 by to get 12? 3. So do the same to the top. What do you multiply 6 by to get 12? 2. So do the same to the top. 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 2 is 2. And now you can subtract. Keep the denominator the same and subtract 9 minus 2. You get 7. That's in lowest terms. Good answer. Okay, 6 minus 4/5. 6? What are we going to do with that? That's not a fraction. Well, you can make it a fraction. Put the 6 over 1. And now you can look to see if common denominators. 1 and 5. What's the lowest common denominator of 1 and 5? Well, the biggest number is 5, so let's write down a few of those. 5, 10, 15. Does 1 go into 5? Yeah, 1 goes into everything. So 5 is the lowest common denominator. What do you have to multiply 1 by to get 5? 5. Do the same to the top. 6 times 5 is 30. Now in this one, you already have 5. Don't change anything, right? Multiply by 1 and by 1 if you want, but you still have 4. Good, now we can subtract. 5 on the bottom. 30 minus 4 is 26. That's fine. Or you can make it mixed. 5 goes into 26 5 times to get up to 25, and then you need 1 more for the remainder. So 5 and 1/5. Sometimes you have more than 2 fractions. You might have 3. So that's fine. Take the biggest one, 4. We got to get common denominators of 2, 3, and 4. So take the biggest one, which is 4, and write a bunch of them down. I'm going to go all the way up to 24. Hopefully that's enough. 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay. Does 3 go into 4? No. So cross it off. Does 3 go into 8? No. Cross it off. Does 3 go into 12? Yeah, it does. Now hopefully 2 does as well. Does 2 go into 12? It does. Okay, they all go into 12. That's the lowest common denominator. So we want 3 fractions that have 12 on the bottom. What do you need to multiply 2 by to get 12? You multiply it by 6. So you got to do the same to the top. What do you multiply 3 by to get 12? 4. Do the same to the top. And what do you multiply 4 by to get 12? 3. Do the same to the top. So what are our new numerators? 1 times 6 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 3 is 9. Denominators are all the same, and it's going to stay the same in the answer. And then the numerators, you got to go 6 plus 8 plus 9. Get your calculator out if you need. 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 9 is 23. If you want to make it mixed, it's 1 with 11 left over. Denominator stays the same. Alright, last one. Common denominator of 9, 3, and 6. Let's count by 9. 9, 18, 27, 36. Let's take the next biggest one. Does 6 go into 9? No. Does 6 go into 18? Yeah, it does. Let's hope that 3 also goes into 18. It does. So that's the lowest common denominator, is 18. So we're going to have 3 fractions with 18 on the bottom. What do you need to multiply 9 by to get 18? 2. Do the same to the top. What are you going to multiply 3 by to get 18? 6. Do the same to the top. And what do you have to multiply 6 by to get 18? 3. Do the same to the top. Whoops, why did I put 5? 3. So let's multiply. 8 times 2 is 16. 1 times 6 is 6. and 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, 18 is the bottom of all these fractions, so you know that the denominator is going to be 18. And now we subtract these two and add this one. So we have 16 take away 6, which is 10, and 10 plus 15 is 25. Perfect. Want to make it mixed? 18 goes into 25 one time, you still have 7 left over, and the denominator stays the same. Alright, so that's adding and subtracting fractions. The next couple videos after this we'll look at how to do with mixed fractions. Good luck with this, and let me know if you need any help. Bye!